Today's August 17th, and it's just business.
All
So much
business, so many business stories this week. And let's start off with a little hardware. Now, you could say that this could have been maybe one of the worst timed releases in the history of graphics cards, if not hardware.
It will go down in business school textbooks as legendary for how mistimed it was.
It's amazing that this market has been red hot on fire. Like you can't even stand close to it. It's like, oh God. And then as it fell off a cliff, they were like, we're ready. We're ready.
But then they weren't really ready. Intel unveils Arc Pro GPUs. So it's Intel graphics, not just for gamers. I haven't seen these. Haven't been able to get my hands on one of these. The one that I ordered from China, MIA, these are for professional users. But where are the drivers? The win that Intel has here is in AV1 video encoding. That's working correctly in the gaming drivers, and it works shockingly well. And Nvidia and AMD will have to catch up with how good the AV1 encoder is. But there's a lot of stuff that leaves me scratching my head.
Well, you might not know anybody doing any benchmarking here, but Intel says, don't worry. We've done that for you. We've got the numbers. You just have to trust them.
The Verge shares that Intel has shared 48 benchmarks to show its A750 can, in fact, compete with an RTX 3060. No, really, guys, we show, for real, come on. Let us show you. The drivers aren't insanely buggy. They're a little bit buggy.
Now, how are sales going for the 30 series right now?
They're so bad that I think that should be a lead-in for our next story, but I don't think it is. But Nvidia is down like almost $2 billion from their projections. That's how good it's going.
I saw a 3090. It was sold out by the time I clicked on it, but a 3090 for the EVGA FTW for less than $1,000.
Wow. That would have been a good buy.
Yeah, I was going to buy it. It was sold out by the time I got there. But yeah, I didn't have a story about that. I mean, we've all seen the video card prices, but I mean, you could get a 3060 for a pretty good deal right now. So Intel's going to have to come out with some pretty low prices if they want that thing to compete. It's probably not what they were expecting when they were doing the R&D. And we have maybe a little bit of a bright spot in the crypto hellscape.
Ether surges to a 2-month high after Ethereum inches closer to a long-awaited upgrade.
This is the proof of stake.
This also will help GPU prices because this doesn't depend on GPUs anymore.
They've done the test, and the test seemed to go really well. So now they're eyeing September as mid-September when the big thing will occur.
And just before we went live, they had set the difficulty thing. So like if you look at the graph line, the difficulty whatever is fixed now. So there is a finite sunset lifetime on that when it will cut over based on work done on the blockchain.
Oh, so they're just guessing. It's whenever that last block gets solved.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if people will like flood into it now. Like, I want to be a part of the end.
No, I think they're trying to sell their GPUs before they're worthless.
That's probably true. And of course, when it comes to crypto, mainstream acceptance just ebbs and flows, right? Like one day the government's like, yeah, we're getting into this. And BlackRock's like, yeah, we're getting into Bitcoin. And then the next day,
email marketing firm Mailchimp suspends several crypto-related accounts. Ooh. You think this is because they ratcheted it up so high and people were saying this is spam that Mailchimp is just like, we can't deal with this anymore?
Well, I mean, it sounds like this is the only response they gave.
We cannot allow businesses involved in the sale, transaction, trading, technical, exchange, storage, marketing, or production of cryptocurrencies, virtual currencies, or any digital assets. That seems pretty sweeping.
Yeah. I don't know why they can't allow that.
They can't allow digital assets. So no software companies either anymore then.
Because, I mean, they wouldn't be on the hook for anything there. Maybe they could get, like, advertising?
You wouldn't think so. But, I mean, how is a software company not a digital asset company? You make and sell shareware games. That seems like a digital asset.
Well, Google, I have to admit, I'm bad about this. When I want to know, like, just a silly little fact, just type in the actual question in Google, and it will give you that little box, and the exact answer is in that box. Well, it turns out that might not be as great as we thought.
Data void. Google to stop giving answers to silly questions. The example they provided was something about, when did Cowboy Bebop kill Abraham Lincoln? And it gave the correct date of Abraham Lincoln's death, but it wasn't Cowboy Bebop that killed Abraham Lincoln.
It also pulls those answers kind of indiscriminately, and there's so much misinformation that there'll be two polar opposite sides to a question. It's whichever one that gets to first. Apparently, whoever has the best page rank is the truth, and that's not right.
I like the funny answers it has for things like, why is Vim the best editor? And it says, did you mean Emacs?
I'm a big believer in Vim. I use Vim, and when somebody's like, "Oh no, I'm using Nano or Pico," I get a little bit on my high horse, and I was like, "Oh, you're one of those." But Emacs says, "I'm not wasting my time with Emacs." Sorry. And Amazon, they're building these stores where you just go in and pick things up, and they track everything. It's funny how Australia was complaining about facial recognition in their stores. And they're like, "Oh, this is invasive," and Amazon's like, "That's our business model." Like, we really just want to do that.
Amazon begins large-scale rollout of palm print-based payments. Okay.
It's touchless, but it's invasive in terms of that being like a fingerprint, and Amazon will have it in storage.
Forever.
You think they'll protect it?
No, not at all. We should open a pool on the forums. Get a free computer for whoever guesses the month and year of when the headline of Amazon lost, everybody's palm prints to the dark web or whatever.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, ATMs start getting robbed. Your money gets robbed out of ATMs.
And then they won't give it back to you because it's, you authenticated biologically. Yeah.
It's only your palm print. How would they fake that? Well, Spotify seems to be one of the companies that has weathered the storm. I guess we still want to listen to music even in the darkest times, maybe more than ever. And now they're branching out. And I remember because Ticketmaster and Clear Channel were like the duo. That was like Wintel for the concert venue era. They controlled everything. They locked it down. And some bands, I remember like Pearl Jam was real, like they fought hard, but I don't think they got anywhere because it's too powerful. Can Spotify disrupt the business?
Spotify tickets. Streaming firm tests direct pre-sales to fans. This is an article about that from Musically.
Now, I'm sure you've heard of all of these people, Wendell, because I certainly have, right? Annie DeRusso, Taki Monster, Aussies, Dirty Hundy, Limbeck, Crows, and 4 Years Strong. Oh, no, that's not one word. That's Crows and 4 Years Strong. How did nobody have a band named Crows until now?
This is a great example of why the Oxford comma is so important.
Yeah, that's true.
We were having a party with the strippers Lenin and Stalin.
So, yeah. Now, they do point out that Spotify is already in business with Ticketmaster to some degree.
Yeah.
So they're tiptoeing around this. But if it works...
Yeah.
Probably better for the consumer, maybe.
Maybe.
Probably better for the artist too. That was one of the big complaints that Pearl Jam had, and they were like, "Hey, we don't want to charge you this amount for this ticket. We want tickets to be cheaper. We really do, but they take so much." This is crazy. You think that this could possibly be as good as just a soundbar?
No.
I want to believe.
No.
But I don't.
Maybe for the bass. LG's 97-inch vibrating OLED TV claims to offer 5.1 audio without speakers. So the thing that makes the sound is behind the panel. The panel itself moves. So you could have that big flat panel as a thing that's producing sound. Okay, that's fine. But it still seems like we would need some other sound sources, at least some tweeters. I mean, that probably is good for bass.
To make sound, sure. That actually already exists. They talk about there's some other models from other companies that do that. But surround sound.
Seems impossible.
Because 2 of those 5 are supposed to be behind you.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense at all. That's a marketing technique. Electric vehicles. We are quickly finding out that what some people have said all along, there's actually not enough material to make those things. Like, there's just not enough. So as we're picking up popularity, they're hitting that wall. So what has to happen?
Ford raises prices of F-150 Lightning electric truck, citing rising material costs. Also, don't forget Cybertruck, which
He would like you to.
yeah, he would like you to. It's gone from what was it, like 35,000 for the base model to 70,000, 79,000 for the base, and it's not even out yet.
Now, if you put your money down, do you get that old price or wow?
Yeah.
What a nasty business. What a bunch of suckers who pre-order.
Well, you get your $500 still goes toward your spot in line, but that's it.
Yeah, but now it's twice the cost. You know what the best answer to pre-order culture is? Look at what's happening in China real estate. Realize that China took pre-order culture so far that they went to the housing industry with it. And now it's destroyed their economy.
Oh, crap. Some billionaire figures that out with the state of housing here. That was probably the 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to go ahead and put some money down so that I can have the opportunity to buy a house in the future. Oh my gosh, that's our future. I didn't consider that.
And
that's going to totally happen.
Look at this beautiful neighborhood.
Yeah.
We have such a beautiful piece of land now. It is going to be 5 years of development time. And in China, you will be paying mortgage payments during that time. But look at this amazing place. Plus, it was like 85% of their property sales. So everybody got on board.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get a house unless you got in line.
Unless our population declines precipitously. We have that problem already here. There's not enough.
Oh. Let's hope it does. And of course, it's not just those battery pieces. It's not those electric motors. Those are not the only problems what the car companies are currently facing.
Over 100,000 cars cut from North American production this week due to chip shortage. Well, that was actually last week, but yeah, can't get the chips. They want cheap chips. This isn't really. I always read these headlines, and this doesn't actually really negatively impact the brands. They actually end up selling what cars they do have at a higher margin, and they don't pay the workers. So it hurts economically, but it doesn't really hurt the company because they just send the people home, and the people don't do work, and nobody buys the vehicle, and the company doesn't really care.
Isn't that the most unionized thing that we've got?
Yeah.
It seems like they'd step in there.
Huh.
Where's the UAW? And I would think that the UAW should step in over this. They should step in and say, no, you're going to destroy our business. You're going to destroy our ability to make money because you are ruining it. You are ruining it. Because clearly they looked at what BMW did and they were like, let's escalate.
GM makes the $1,500 OnStar subscription mandatory on GMC, Buick, and Cadillac models. Listen, I've got news for you. $1,500 is crazy. You can have a completely dedicated cell phone with a hotspot capability. You just leave in your car, and it won't cost that a year.
Yeah, but will it turn on the emergency alert when I brake too hard and have the girl be like, oh, what is your emergency? It's like, no, I'm just having fun.
There will be an app for that by the end of the week.
And so, yeah, that's 3 years. That buys you 3 years of OnStar. That's not even a forever price. And if you try to resell that car, I bet it won't go with it.
No.
That's your subscription.
And they're going to try to convince lawmakers that this is completely fine and it should be mandatory. Like licensing to drive.
This is one of my favorite paywall alternatives, umid.com. I don't know what this is. But this begins our business malaise block.
LinkedIn has dumped its entire global events marketing team. LinkedIn has laid off all the employees on the professional social network's global events marketing team amid continued economic uncertainty. So there's other layoffs going on inside of LinkedIn, but this is the big one.
And the streaming wars. We all know that the streaming wars, everybody wanted a low price point, especially during the pandemic. They wanted to lock you in, get you in, make you fall in love with their service. But that doesn't pay the bills at the end of the month.
Disney raises streaming prices after services post big operating loss. So Disney Plus is going to be increasing $3 per month to $10.99, and with ads to $7.99.
Wow. $7.99 and you still got to watch ads. I guess when you compare that to traditional television, it's still cheaper.
I'm remembering the brick and mortar stores where you could go in and buy an entire season of something for like $20.
Now they're like 80. But Disney does have, I think they're the winner right now, right? Because Netflix has more people, but it's not growing.
Yeah.
I think Disney's probably positioned the best, which means that everybody else wants to be a part of it. Clearly, Hulu is willing to get in there and put together a package. But once again, I have to wonder: aren't we going back to the cable days, where more and more people just get onto this service? But you do have to think like, if I'm comparing this with Amazon Prime, this is going to convince a lot of people.
Well, not only that, but this trajectory for copyright in general means that you will never be able, not in a foreseeable future.
Oh, how unprofessional. And it's almost for sure spam.
In the foreseeable future, you're not going to be able to buy anything. It's like, I would like to buy a book about this and have it forever. Nope, you can rent it.
Oh, you want to set up a subscription? No, it's not what's that. But we never did the headline.
Walmart ponders a streaming deal with Paramount, Disney, and Comcast.
But you bring up a good point there. This puts the worst possible person at the helm in terms of copyright.
Yeah.
When I say person, I guess corporate personhood. Disney, the mouse.
The mouse.
Yeah, that's awful.
So, good luck actually buying anything. It's like, I would like to enjoy that again. It's like, please deposit 25 cents into your couch cushion so that you... It's like, what?
Now, all you sycophants, don't just read the second part of this sentence. This is not good news. This is decidedly bad news.
Tom's Hardware reports that desktop CPU sales are at their lowest in 30 years. Oh no, everything is all broken, blah, blah, blah. And then in very small print, should be, even despite that, AMD has gained market share anyway. That's still not great news.
But yeah, AMD has managed to actually get positive growth during all this horror. And they're going to experience some slowdown for sure, but they certainly seem to have made some good decisions, whereas Intel made overwhelmingly poor decisions.
At least for the short term. Long term, they might be pretty good, but short term, not so much.
And as we alluded to before, talking about the GPUs, one of the big names that has been just the darling of the past 2 to 3 years is now finally hitting the wall.
Crypto-driven GPU crash makes Nvidia miss its Q2 projections by 1.4 billion. As I was reading this article, it was hard to concentrate on because all I could think of was that, you remember how Nancy Pelosi bought all the Nvidia shares and then sold it at a loss?
But it turned out to be...
that was a good move.
Yeah.
That was a great move, in fact.
Everybody thought she was doing that to try and dodge what looked like insider trading. But it may have just been more insider trading. And you think probably during the chips discussion, that kind of thing would have been
would
on
come
the table.
up. Yeah. It's like, no.
So,
well, don't forget Intel either, because they scaled back their investments by about $4 billion for dividends. Because once the CHIPS Act thing was settled.
And we just gave them money. Yeah, it's crazy. It's time to do away with buybacks, right?
Stock buybacks?
Yeah.
It's like, if you're getting government subsidy for something, no buybacks.
Don't qualify it. Just, you want to go public, you're at the mercy of the market.
Yeah.
You don't get to claw them back. Sorry. Go private. Take your company back private. Now, one thing about it is Nvidia did beat their estimates.
Yeah.
Just barely. But people were like, we know those estimates are conservative. It's going to be big, right? And it wasn't. So still bad for your stock price.
Actually, it was a profit of like $6 billion instead of 8 point something billion. And okay, that's still really good.
But I think that last little bit,
Yeah.
like the line was pretty good, but if you just look at the last part of the chart, it's like, ooh, maybe now's a good time to sell. Hey, Paul, time to sell. Better call Paul. And Groupon. How does Groupon still exist?
It's not. It's
it's
got to be a Monday laundry
terrible
thing, right?
A terrible business model. And how could they possibly have 3,500 employees? What are those people doing?
Well, now it's 3,000. Groupon cuts over 500 staff and plans to focus only on mission-critical activities from now on. Chicago-based Groupon, 15% of its 3,400 people.
Unfortunate. I think there was another headline I didn't include it, but I think it was Groupon where a woman found out she was getting laid off by a tweet.
Yeah.
They didn't tell them first.
Yeah.
Cookies. Now we still have Microsoft and Sony battling it out because Microsoft wants Activision Blizzard. Sony says no, that's anti-competitive.
Microsoft claims that Sony pays developers quote-unquote blocking rights to keep games off of Xbox Pass. A scrutiny of Activision Blizzard buyout continues. So, I read this headline and blood almost shot out of my nose because isn't that a console exclusive? Isn't that what that is? That's not exactly what that's talking about. That's talking about how Microsoft, having previously acquired the rights to some things or working in partnership with some other companies, are trying to get them to put their games on the Xbox Game Pass. But Sony still has some rights in games that were jointly produced with other agencies, other outfits. And so Sony is paying them not to let them have the game on the Xbox Game Pass, even though the game may have been a PlayStation exclusive and then came out on Xbox. Sony is actively trying to keep those games from coming to the Xbox Game Pass through the other subsidiary. And it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, Microsoft is correct here, but Microsoft does it too. Microsoft has exclusives where the studio or whatever they're working with is only allowed to release on their console at first.
And you know they want Game Pass to benefit from like, oh, you want to play Call of Duty? Got to be on Game Pass. They probably won't go that far, but they might do like a spin-off and do that as an exclusive, working toward baking you into that ecosystem. I have to say, though, Xbox, the PC version, the Game Pass, is such an incredible value. Turbo Golf Racing is absolutely amazing amounts of fun. I would never have purchased that game. Never. But you give it to me for free, and I'm like, I'll try it. And it's like, wow, this is really fun. Now, they do spy. You do have to agree to the spying every time you install a game. So
I've noticed that when that process is running in the background, that it's doing an awful lot of stuff when it thinks the computer's idle.
Yeah, I definitely shut that down every time I'm not using it. But hey, you pay a hefty price, but you get a great value for it. I got to say, Cooking Simulator, I would have never even tried that game. Turns out it's kind of fun, especially on a Twitch stream. And Microsoft, you know, they do have this reputation.
They do.
Of being basically evil. No, I shouldn't qualify that. Evil, pure evil, and really putting the consumer last and definitely not testing anything. So what do you do to combat that? Well, you hire an entire team to get it done. But then when you realize that no team can overcome the scope of your evil.
Microsoft reportedly lays off the team focused on winning back customers. Around 200 employees affected. So think Munich. Remember Munich? They bought Microsoft stuff and they didn't like it. Then they went Linux, and then Microsoft was focused on trying to win them back. This is probably the group that had to deal with stuff like that. They're gone. Do you think that if any company successfully moved off of the dependency of like the Microsoft Cloud and Office 365, and they could actually get the job done with reasonable amounts of effort on something that was open source or something that was something else, that they would have any hope of ever winning them back?
They would get them back after they sell to the bigger fool, and then they take it public, and it goes into that whole ecosystem.
Okay, maybe just then.
Yeah. So you do that in order to get rich and hand it off to the people who are insane and need to be in that world. Whereas you've accumulated enough money that you don't need to keep chasing money. You can go do other things. So the only people that ever get to that corporate structure or government structure are the psychopaths and the sociopaths. And we've seen that's never enough. They just keep going no matter what the amount is. Here, I suspect, now that we're talking all this stuff about Microsoft, I suspect this is maybe a little bit of bread and circuses, yeah?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're doing good things. Yeah, have this thing that we care nothing about.
Microsoft open sources its 3D emoji to let creators remix and customize them. So you can download these, they're free. I think this is kind of like what Microsoft did with the fonts. In the early days of Linux, Linux's fonts were really terrible. And so Microsoft just finally said, "Look, well, here you go. Have some free fonts."
How exciting. I expected Krista to have some comments on these, but she's not with us. And more open sourcing. It's always a good idea. I imagine this means that they just invented something better. Don't you think?
DreamWorks Animation to release Renderer as open source software. Its proprietary Moonray software has been used on movies including The Bad Guys and the upcoming Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Is that a Shrek spinoff? Good lord.
I don't know. Maybe.
Is DreamWorks Disney? Because that seems like a Disney move to
I don't
just not
think
let the franchise die.
I think DreamWorks used to do work for Disney, right? But then
they had some kind of fight or
now
something.
they got good enough at it to do it on their own. I'm looking forward to the overwhelming quality increase in the Cat Girl Steam games. There's so many of those.
Or this is a Blender plug-in or something.
Yeah, it'd be nice. And of course, the internet service providers, we talk a lot about how they will screw you in terms of actually bringing service to your house. It doesn't matter how close you are to the pole. If the spreadsheet says that you're not profitable, you will never get them to run it. They will say that you need to pay it instead. This man has the ultimate answer to that annoyance.
Man who built ISP instead of paying Comcast $50,000 expands to hundreds of homes. Jared Mock got $2.6 million from the government to expand his fiber ISP in rural Michigan. So this is okay. If the FCC and Rosenworcel are going to give Elon Musk's money to people like this, I'm all for it. But if Rosenworcel is going to take Starlink's $886 million and give it to Comcast, I'm not okay with that.
They did give him some money. However, he's now saying that because of the inflation bomb, he's paying almost double. So he points out handholds that you have to put at certain points along the line. Previously, on his installs, he was paying $300. Now he's paying $700. More than 100%. All the tools, like the tool to dig under a driveway, for example, is just overwhelmingly expensive. So he's not making very much money. But he's still happy.
Yeah.
Because he has great internet, his neighbors have great internet, and he is making his costs back.
Yeah. Which is all, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But when the business is like, oh, we're not going to make enough money to make that worthwhile, they're lying to you because economies of scale. If one dude can do this and break even, yeah.
Yeah, you got to think his orders, if he's paying $700, then they could scale that up. They could pay $500.
Yeah.
Easily.
They could eventually just pay their own metallurgists to make them and probably get like $10 a unit.
Yeah. Turns out, what was it the last? Oh, yeah, Hostess. Hostess got burned because they were running all their own trucks. It's like, just get Jeff Bezos to do that. That's the way to do that. And once again, we have a giant corporation just throwing some scraps out. Throwing us some scraps. Like, here you go. Our GPU business is crashing and burning, so we might as well share this with you now.
Nvidia publishes 73,000 lines worth of 3D header files for Fermi through Ampere GPUs. So theoretically, this open GPU documentation, I think this is kind of a stealth toe in the water because AMD has been incredibly successful with their GPU open. And I think this is kind of a toe in the water to see what the response is without really risking a lot. Now, this is up through Ampere GPUs, but this might actually breathe new life into support for older GPUs, especially 700 and 900 series. So if you're on Linux and you got like a GTX 970, things may be getting a lot better for you soon.
That would have been a lot more useful 2 years ago.
Yeah, but see, we couldn't release it 2 years ago because then it might make the GPUs good enough to compete with our cheap new offerings. So you really need to buy that 3060 and toss out your old 980 Ti.
And of course, we have the old green versus blue text message argument. It just continues.
Google tries publicly shaming Apple into adopting RCS. I like the subheadline. Good luck with that. Apple has no shame.
So they're basically calling it bullying. We did cover that some people feel that they are looked down upon in a group chat.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, well, it's definitely true that I look down on the other color. That's fine. We can have that. We can look down on one another and still interact and be productive.
It's like, yes, hello, Emacs user. Yes, Pico user. How's it going?
And Google and Sonos, man, how long has this battle been going on?
This is a new chapter.
A new chapter, but I don't think the other stuff's been resolved.
Google sues Sonos over voice control technology. Now, last time it was the other way around. Sonos sued Google, said that Google stole a bunch of stuff. And so now Sonos has incorporated like the smart speaker voice control stuff, and Google said, not so fast there. That's ours.
In particular, they went with the wake word of "Hey Sonos." So the "Hey" part, Google seems to think is a little bit too infringing. That is kind of a ubiquitous word.
Hey Sonos, order me a 10-pound bag of gummy bears. Confirmed.
I don't think theirs works like that. I think they're probably just trying to find music by a band called Gummy Bears. And boy, you know what? Only one of these this week. I think only one of these this week, right? Yeah. But we have not had a week without one of these headlines in what, 2 months?
Yeah.
At least?
Crypto lender Hodlnaut, freezes withdrawals. They're going to be holding on your behalf, citing market conditions.
I mean, look, it's in the name, right? We're going to hold your money. We're going to hold on to
They
it.
pulled out their application to be regulated in Singapore as well. So
This was not a hack or anything like that. It's just they're getting burned so hard by the market that
their business model always depends on the value of crypto increasing at a relatively constant rate.
who could have predicted that that might not happen at some point? Now, they were not exposed to 3 arrows or any of that stuff.
No.
This is just bad business. Yeah. Real bad. I would encourage you to get your money out. Oh, wait. And I don't know. Who would you give the edge to this week in terms of terrible timing and not reading the audience? Do you give it to the Intel GPU or this?
I think this is worse because it's so obvious.
It is because we do have exact numbers here.
I feel like if we were running Netflix, like this would never happen no matter what people were telling us. But if we were running Intel, it's like, I don't know. It's too complicated.
Maybe. Yeah, I definitely could. If I was at this conference table, I definitely would have said, no, we should not do this. This is the worst idea you've ever had.
99% of Netflix subscribers have not tried its games yet. Netflix games see only 1.7 million daily users. Now, you want to juxtapose that next to all the shows they canceled and the writers they fired and all the budget that was eliminated for all of that. And I just want to say, if I could have had one more episode of Altered Carbon and no games, I think I would have taken it.
Now, it's true, I believe, right, that you don't buy these games. You get the full library as part of your subscription. So it's only, your curiosity could take you in there and you could explore, but people are so disinterested in that.
Yeah.
That 1%.
It's not even a thing that you would think Netflix would have.
Maybe a lot of people don't even know about it. I wonder how hard they're pushing it. I'm not going to sign up for Netflix to find out. And this is maybe the story of the week in terms of just like...
It was everywhere.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
It should be everywhere. Every human in the world should know the darkness of this.
Brick's Epson printers make a strong case for user repairability. Planned obsolescence continues to blight us. This is the Verge's article, but this is literally everywhere. And submitted on our forum and emailed to me at least a dozen times.
People love to share this.
What happened, and Epson's taking the brunt of this, but you better believe Lexmark, HP, all these other companies do this. So it was a tweet. It was like, we have this nice Epson America printer, and it just stopped printing. It says, I've reached the end of life. You can either do service or you can do, whatever. And it had been printing fine. It's literally just an internal timer that says, we think whatever. When asked for comment, Epson said that there are pads in there, like whenever it's cleaning its nozzles, there's pads that excess ink go into, and those will fill up. And eventually, the ink may overflow, and maybe that would cause a fire hazard, which seems really far-fetched.
Now, this is rare to see because you really have to run your printer hard for those things to fill up. This is people who are just like constantly running their printer. And it turns out there's a tool, because obviously they got angry phone calls. It's like, my presentation is due tomorrow and this stupid thing won't print. And they're like, you can use this utility and it'll unlock like 100 more pages or something like that.
Yeah.
It turns out that you can keep buying bootleg keys for that and keep it running indefinitely, but it's $10 a key.
Oh my gosh.
You can also replace your own pads, but that is a very unpleasant job because they are literally just pads soaked with ink. So
I'm sure that the EFF is going to use this as Exhibit A in the whole right to repair thing. But also, the market is like, oh, capitalism, the market, well, whatever. The market would have produced a printer that has easy to replace ink pads if this was actually a thing.
it could just be another, it could be a little thing that you just slide out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pad.
Yeah.
Literally, you could just have a little snap-in thing, but that's not how it is. It's very unpleasant to replace this.
There was a design. I remember there was a class action suit and a design defect in the HP DeskJet 550. The rollers would stop picking up paper, and so it was a pretty expensive printer for the time, and it was insanely laborious to replace the rollers. And so HP's actual official fix was this contraption that you would stick in where the paper goes that was just sandpaper, and it would sand the rubber off. And they basically said whenever it stops picking up paper, just shove that in there and let it sand off another layer of hardened rubber, and that's the fix. And that will get you just over the warranty period. And that was 20 years ago.
Then after that, your printer is full with tiny rubber particles
Exactly.
that will jam everything.
Yeah.
Printers have... There was never a time when printers were, like, acceptable.
Yeah, printers like USB are an invention of the devil. Designed to only frustrate mankind. Most people don't realize it, but World War II was caused by one of the earliest commercial printers. People were just so frustrated.
Hitler was trying to print out some of his art.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm done with this.
Where is this made? Oh, what's it?
All right, well, that's all we got for business. 36 minutes. I expect it to be a little longer, but we did have the Melee's block, which is quick.
There's a lot of other corporate news that was just what a tragedy.
On Friday, we got robots and space and nonsense. The fun day. See you then.